Hello and welcome to Craft with Sarah and day 9 of the card making countdown, where I'm sharing a new Cricut craft to make every day for 14 days. Today we are making these fun never-ending cards. They get their name because you can open up the card again and again and again and again and then end up right back at the beginning. It really is never ending because you can just sit there and play with this card for hours and just keep going through all the pretty pictures. I've included a blank never-ending card design with today's project, and in this video I'll show you how you can customize it with pattern papers, pictures, photos, messages, or whatever it is that you choose. Let's get started. This project is part of the 2026 card making countdown. Download the cut files for free for the first 24 hours after this video goes live using the links in the video description or by visiting craftwithsarah.com/cards26. After 24 hours, the cut files for this project can be purchased from craftwithsarah.com/cards26 files. Or get the entire card making countdown plus loads of extra bonus files from craftwithsarah.com/cards26 bundle. The download comes in a zip folder. You need to unzip this before uploading the SVG files into your cutting machine software. For instructions on how to do this, visit craftwithsarah.com/help and choose Cricut, Silhouette or Scan and Cut. Within there are dedicated help guides on topics such as how to upload SVGs, how to modify them to make custom projects, framing tips, and how to cut cardstock with your type of machine. If you have any questions, email hello@craftwithsarah.com. Now, on with today's project. Here's a quick demo before we begin, and also something to be aware of when you're making this card. So here's the front of my card, and then the edges fold outwards to create the second panel, which looks like this. Then it folds outwards top and bottom, and you see this. And then the two sides come in and you get the final screen. So these two pink bits here where I've got the badger and the hedgehog, they're seen on that one and on that one. So it's something to be aware of when choosing your design. Now the thing that you might be noticing as you get yours cut out is that yours might look a little bit different. I've put arrow and shape cutouts in all of the panels so that you know which bits of pattern paper to put in which place. I didn't realise until I started sticking this together that on this screen, so this is the third one, you can see a tiny little bit of those arrows still as this is put together. So if you're looking at my card and thinking, what are those weird gaps? That is a little mistake on my part, but I'm going to redo this and test it to make sure they're hidden. So when you get this, you won't see those little cutouts on this screen. It just means that when you're comparing yours, how you see it in Design Space, to what I see in Design Space in this video, yours might be slightly different. Your arrows will be a little bit smaller. They might be in a slightly different place. And that's just how I tweaked it to overcome those being visible. This is so fun to play with. You can just sit there and fold it around again and again and again. This is what the never-ending card looks like when loaded into Design Space. You see, it kind of looks fairly simple. It's all rectangles and squares, but there are a lot of them. Up here are the main parts that make up the structure that you turn, and underneath are the parts that will be all of our pattern paper and mats. I've added some cutouts and shapes into the background so that you'll know which one goes on at which time and which direction up to put all the pattern paper bits. First up, we want to check this is loaded in at the correct size. It should load in at 14 inches wide and 20 inches tall as indicated by this green box. Click into size, and if yours is not 14 by 20, change it to match those measurements. Then, with the design selected, press Ungroup at the top of the Layers panel to separate out the pieces. Click the very top layer, which is that green rectangle, and delete it. Then, start clicking on the white shapes at the top. Open them up by clicking the chevron icon in the Layers panel, and click on the top layer, which looks like two horizontal or vertical lines. In the Operations menu, change that to Score. Then click to select the whole group, so we've got the scoreline and the bit underneath, and press attach. Attach is what tells the Cricut to do the scoring on this particular bit of card. And then do the same for all of the 4 white pieces at the top of the page. That's all the formatting done, but you may wish to change up some of the colours. I've added some different colours on here, and all of these are in the positions that you'll see them as you're going through the various stages of the never-ending card. I've mixed some colours that will appear on different screens, so you'll see them both together, and I've tried to give it a kind of nice mix of colours and different patterns across each of the pages. If you want to change them, click and ungroup the layers, and now you can go into each one nice and easily by clicking, and you can change the colour up here. I didn't actually intend it to be cut in these exact colours, so not yellow, purple, blue, green for instance, but this is more to indicate the different kinds of pattern paper that you might use. I like to choose patterns from the same paper set because then all the colours match really nicely, but if you've got different ones you want to use, that's absolutely fine too. I haven't left any of these spaces for a message to be written on the card. I kind of feel this is more like something you would give more as a gift than something to write on. However, if you did want to write on it, then what I recommend doing is using the second one over here. Let's ungroup the layers and change these 2 squares to white, and then you can write your message on those. Then it's not the very first thing you see, but it'll be a nice surprise to get your message when the card is opened up to see this version of all of the designs. I've kept all of the underlying shapes, which I call the mats, the same colour, they're all this dark grey, but you can change the colour up if you want to, and that is something I'll be doing once I've selected my papers. Underneath some of these, the mats have got shapes on them that match to the templates, so that when you're putting it all together, you'll know which one goes on which bit. For instance, this bit's got a triangle and an up arrow, so we'll be sticking that on top of that one when it comes to assembling the card. Some of the smaller ones don't have anything underneath because they're all the same anyway, so it doesn't really matter which way around they go, and they were a little bit too small to get those shapes underneath. When you're opening up the card, some of the different squares and shapes that you see will end up on multiple versions of the card, and sometimes they appear upside down. Therefore, the pink and the orange works best if you cut those colours from a pattern paper that doesn't have a specific right way up. Something like stripes or polka dots, or something maybe just colours or a gradient or a sky, something that isn't a very obvious right and wrong way up, otherwise you might find that your pattern appears upside down at various points on the card. But all the other colours can be cut from something that does have a definitive right and wrong way up. Let's take a look at the papers I'll be using for my project. These are the patterns that I've chosen for my never-ending card. It's from this paper pack, and also this one. I think the first one was from the range, this one's from Hobbycraft in the UK, but they are very old. I've had them a few years, so they're probably out of print now to get the exact same ones, but of course you can use any of your pattern papers from your stash. For the 2 where I said they need to be patterns that it doesn't matter which way up they go, I've gone this stripy one because, you know, it's just stripes either side, and also this leaf one where it doesn't matter which way around you look at it at because all the leaves are in different directions. To make it easier to remember when you're cutting which one goes with which colour on the screen, add a little tiny letter on the bottom right of the paper, right along the edge. When you're cutting paper with your Cricut, it never does the 1/4 of an inch on the very edges, so you should be safe if you put it right in that bottom corner. You could also do it on the back if you prefer. I've added the letter of the first letter of the colour that it corresponds to in Design Space. So this one's Y for yellow, so I know when yellow comes up when I'm cutting, this is the one I want. This one I've got a B for blue. For pink and purple, as they both start with P, I've done PU for purple and PI for pink. To keep things simple, you can use the same backing colour for each of these papers so that when you stick the squares and the rectangles on top, you've got the same border colour for each. That's how the design is set up in Design Space, with it the same for each one. However, if you want to mix and match a little better to match your papers, then you can change the colours up, which is what I am going to do. I've got a pink backing, which I thought would look nice for my pink papers. So I'm going to use 2 colours with the pink, and then I've got a lighter green and a darker green. My base card shapes, the one with the score lines on, I'm going to do from this paper, which is a kind of pale yellow, a little bit nice and subtle, which will blend in nicely with my papers. When choosing your base card, because you see both sides of it, you want to make sure you choose something that's smooth textured, so it's the same on both sides and the same colour on both sides as well. And then personally, I prefer it when all the bases are the same colour. If you mix and match, it can look a little bit odd and a bit clashy with some of your papers. So I've gone for all of this pale yellow for my main pieces. To make sure that's all going to look good on the final never-ending card, let's go back to Design Space and play about with the colours to get them to match these. As I'll be using different colours for my matte layers that go behind the pattern paper, I need to change these so that they're not all appearing in grey. Otherwise, the Cricut will try and cut them all on the same piece, and I want them to be different. I'll keep the dark grey for the bits I'll be doing in dark green, and then the ones I'll be doing in pink, let's change these to a darker pink. Don't use the pink that's already the pattern paper because it has to be different, otherwise that will also cut from the same pattern paper. So you can go for a darker pink on all of my purple bits, and I'll use that same pink for the background of the pink squares too. This is my stripy pink paper that it doesn't matter which way around it goes. The purple one is my tulips. Okay, so now all my pink and purple squares and rectangles have got that dark pink background. And then I'm going to do a lighter green for these ones. I'll make it a bit darker than the green pattern paper one. So they'll be my lighter green, the grey will be my darker green. So yellow stays on that one, and then my blue is the other colour, and my green is the other colour. Orange will stay as the darker one. I like that I'm going to have a real mix of colours on each of these. That one is the other green, and then my orange stays as grey. Okay, so that's those all done. You don't have to use pattern paper to go on the squares and rectangles. You could also use photographs or graphics. Here are 2 random images I've chosen to show 2 slightly different ways of doing it. First up, we'll look at the photo. This technique works if you've got a solid shape of your picture, so it will be bigger than the shapes that we've got over here. So let's say we wanted this orange square to be the dog. First, click on the square and press Arrange and then to Front. And then we'll move it over, and under the Operations drop down, change it to a guide. It's kind of hard to see, but that changes it to a pink outline so we can see our photo through. Then resize your photo until you can see the part that you want to appear in the square or rectangle. Really important, do not resize the squares themselves, so nothing from the never-ending card template, only resize the photo to match. When you're happy with what's looking in there, drag a box around both of those and press Slice. That cuts the square out of the photo. You can see as I drag it away, we're left with that empty space. Then I could delete those. And so we remember the position, very important. Let's move it back over there. For images like this, it's a little different. This one's easy because the Cricut can cut around the edge of the square, but on this one it will try and cut out all of these individual little wispy bits coming off of the dog, which it will not be able to do, and then it won't fit onto our template anyway because we need it to be a square or a rectangle in these exact sizes. So in this instance, what we would do is move the square over and change the colour to whatever you want the background to be. I'll go for white. Resize your picture down and do it on top. Get it where you want it to go. Then drag a box around both of those, the square and the picture, and press flatten. Flatten turns this into a print and cut, which means you do lose the outline of the square, but don't worry, you can see when you drag it back onto the matte layer that the Cricut will now cut that square out. So it will print the picture, and instead of trying to cut around the dog, it will cut the perfect square shape. If you're new to print and cut with your Cricut machine, head to the schedule page for this card making countdown and look in the foundation learning section near the top of the page. Within there is a link to a separate video on how to print and cut with your Cricut machine. That also goes through how you upload pictures and photos into Design Space, so if you're not quite sure how to get these onto your project in the first place, that video will show how. When you've got all of your pieces looking how you want them to, save your project and then press Make to begin the cut process. I like to use a fairly sturdy card for the base bits to make sure they can cope with being folded in all the different directions as the card is gone through. Around £80 cardstock or something in the region of 250 GSM. A little bit heavier or a little bit lighter is fine, but I wouldn't go really lightweight for this particular project. So 210 or lower GSM's probably a little bit thin. Likewise, I wouldn't go incredibly thick, so don't go for your 300 GSM or your £110 card because that'll be hard to fold and you'll probably find that it will kind of crack a little bit with all of the folding that we'll be doing as we go through all the different layers. So go ahead and get everything cut out and then we'll see how to put together our never-ending card. Once everything is cut out, take your 4 structure pieces and fold down all the score lines. I've done those 3 already, but this one is still to do. It doesn't matter which way round you fold it. Choose a direction and get it folded, and then pull it back round and fold it in the opposite direction. When the card is opened and turned into all the different variations, the folds will go both ways. So we're starting it off now to help that cardstock be nice and supple along those folds. If you've got a brayer tool, a bone folder, a scraper tool, a rolling pin or something similar, you can go down the folds to make them nice and crisp. Take the piece with the star cut out and the piece with the squares. It's easier to put this together if you hold these bits in place on your work surface. I'm using some masking tape, but washi tape or other kind of low tack tape will work too. This is fairly sticky. A way to get around that is to put it on your clothes a couple of times and get some lint on it. That makes it less sticky, so it's less likely to damage your cardstock. Okay, so I'm going to hold one of these and put the tape just in the middle section, so don't overlap either of those score lines. Then with the square piece, line it up as accurately as you can, so it's almost like we're making one big square, like that. And in fact, I think I will put this bit in 2 and put a bit across the middle too to join them together. There we go. Now fold the sides inwards along those score lines. All 4 of them in like that. Take your glue. I'm using Barely Art glue, but I also like Collal. The reason I like these glues is they don't bend or wrinkle the card like some glues can do. You could use double-sided tape, but I did try that and it might just have been the tape I have, but I found when I was moving the card and opening it and twisting it round, the tape came apart, whereas the glue sticks a lot more securely. The piece with the circle cutouts will go on the left, and the one with the triangles will go on the right, and we've got all our arrows pointing upwards. We'll do this side first. Close those two bits down, and we're going to add our glue to the top bit above the star, and then on the bottom section below the arrow. Not going all the way down to the star, I'm leaving a little bit of a gap, and the same with the arrow. That just allows the glue to be able to smush out a bit. Then take your circle piece and we'll glue this on so that it lines up with the middle where it meets over here. Be as accurate as you can at lining this up. If you do it a bit skew-whiff, the card won't close up properly. And then it's the same on the other side. Close the tabs in, put some glue above where that star is on this one, and then on this one we're going at the bottom below the arrow, and stick this one over the top. You might end up with some glue being visible in the little shape cutouts, but that's fine because they'll all be covered up by the panels anyway. And it should close nicely. If it doesn't, have a little play around before the glue dries. We want it to look like it's all closed up without a gap when they're pushed in together. At this point, it's going to be super tempting to start twisting and turning it round, but don't do it yet. You need to wait for that glue to fully, completely dry before you start. Otherwise, it risks it coming apart and moving and your lines not being quite as neat as they could be. So I'm going to go make a cup of tea and then come back when I know that glue is fully dry. When your glue is dry, take the tape off if you've used some, and then we can have a go at the folding. It won't look all that impressive now because we don't have our details on, but you can see how it works. So we'll fold those sides backwards, and that gives us the second screen, and then the edges fold outwards, and it'll be a little bit hard to do the first time. You might need to push it down to get those creases so they know what they're doing. And then the two bits come in and fold outwards like that. And then we go back again and we're back at the beginning. So the beginning one is the one where you can see all the arrows pointing upwards. The left has got circles and the right has got triangles. The putting together of this card's actually pretty simple. It's the getting the right bits in the right place that's a little tricky. You can see here I've lined up all the pieces that go on my first side. So all my backing bits have got the shapes on that match. So I've got an arrow and a circle. Arrow and a circle. And these ones are triangles. Some of the pieces do come more than once. So look at your screen in Design Space if you've chosen different colours for your backings to make sure you're putting the right one on at the right time. For me, that was my lighter green one to go here. And then I've lined up the pattern papers next to it too, so I know I'm putting everything on correctly. For that, I used my little annotations in the bottom and compared it to the screen in Design Space to remember which bits to put on at which time. And now it is just a case of gluing these into place. So each of them will go on, and there's a little gap where you'll be able to see the base card colour around them. The shapes should line up, but don't worry too much about it being accurate because you won't see any of those cutouts when everything's put together because it gets all covered up double-sided. And I've got my pattern paper to go on top. Again, that sits right in the middle. So we've got an even border around. And repeat that for all of the other bits that make up this side of the never-ending card. The nice thing about lining up the shapes is if you do line it up accurately, you kind of know that you've got it exactly in the middle. So what I'll do after sticking this bit on is pause my camera, get the rest of the bits of this side stuck on, and then we'll open it up and do the next bit. Here's what my front side looks like with all those patterns. It's so cute. Then we can open it up to get the next one, and then lie your bits around so you know you're putting it on at the right time. Once again, there will be multiple pieces with the same design in. So we've got the star and then the arrow. So if you've used multiple colours, just check in Design Space that you're doing it the right way round. Then exactly the same as before, we'll glue these bits on all the way around. I'm just dropping in partway through this because I've noticed that on this one, my squares and arrows aren't quite lining up properly. Maybe I originally did them the other way around or something. But if you come into that situation too, it's more important that you get everything lined up centrally in the panel than you line the shapes up. So focus more on getting that even border than anything else. The shapes are mostly there so that we know we're putting the right bits on at the right time more than anything else. This is what my side looks like now. Then we can open it up to get to this one. This time we're only sticking on the two in the middle. Follow the direction of the arrows, even though your bits here will be the other way around. So here I've got circle arrow and this is arrow circle. It doesn't matter. Stick this round the right way up with the shape first, and then your panel will go on top. The same on the other side, you'll be seeing arrow, triangle, but your shape will be triangle, arrow. Just make sure it goes on there and we're all good. With your arrow pointing upwards in the middle, you can see those middle arrows are pointing upwards. That's the side that you need your pictures to be. I've just had a bit of a horrible realization that these arrows and squares are going to be visible a little bit when these squares are put on the corners. You can see a bit of my cutout there. I've tested this card loads of times, but I haven't tested it since I put the shapes in. So what I will do before you get the file is reposition those arrows and shapes a little bit so that you won't see those edges when these bits are on there. I'll keep going now. We keep going in the face of a crisis and glue my pink squares into each of the corners. I did think it was all going far too easily. That is why. It's just those arrows and the little shapes here. Okay, so yours, when you do it, you won't be able to see those. These bits we'll leave until the next one. So now we can open this up. And I think I'm going to have the same problem with the shapes on these ones. I might get away with it. We'll see. So on this one we've got the 4 little squares. Yeah, that one, you get away with it. Oh, and that one. I think we're going to be good on these. It's just that previous frame where it isn't. Here we go, that's all those corners done. And then we've got the last 2 here. This is why I said it's kind of good to have a pattern that looks good from any angle for the pink and the orange, because the arrows are upside down, so we need it to look good at that upside down angle. If you do have a paper that does have a right and wrong way up for these bits, stick it on so that it looks the right way up as you're looking at it now. So on these ones, ignore the direction of the arrow. We're doing it so that when you open the card up, it looks the right way. And that is my never-ending card all finished. So if we open it up now, we're back to the beginning. We've got screen 1, screen 2, screen 3, and here you see half of these bits from the next one. I will cover up those little holes before you get the design. And then screen 4, and back to the beginning. If you have any flat embellishments that you want to add, you can do that. For instance, this paper pack comes with some little push-out animals and mushrooms and things. You could also use peel-off stickers or images that you've stamped or something like that. Then you can add these on and glue them in. Just make sure that when you're doing it, you don't go over any of the joins, otherwise your card won't open and close properly. But for instance, I could maybe put the rabbit in there. I don't quite like that though. Perhaps there, on those tulips. Let's see, is there anything else? No, I'm going to go there. Don't add any foam squares or anything that gives dimension. This needs to be as flat as possible. If you've got nothing to add on top, or if you just don't want to, that is fine too. You can go as detailed or as simple as you want to. Maybe go for, oh, there's a dragonfly. Dragonfly on that one. There are some little blue flowers that could go in the middle of some of these. It helps jazz it up a bit if you have used fairly plain papers as well. Add that in there. And got a mushroom and a snail to do the other corners. Yeah. And then this one, remember that you see the top and bottom of this one on the screen before, so bear in mind if you do put something there, it should be something that sort of works for both of it. So I could maybe go for that badger, put that in the middle, and then its head will be visible on that one. Still looks good when we open it up to the final screen. And I'm not sure, maybe a little hedgehog for this one. I need to go back to this bit. If the hedgehog was along the bottom, you'd be able to see it there. It might need something for the top though, for when it opens up. Let's see. Hedgehog there. And then what can we do? Oh, another dragonfly. That works, doesn't it? Dragonfly along the top. And a little bit of oak leaf for that corner. That way it still looks really good on this screen because it's all filled in. I think that's elevated it a little. I've got nothing on the front. Do you think it needs it? I've still got a few pictures I could do. I've got the big fox, but that would take up quite a lot of the design. Squirrel is a bit smaller. Maybe do a squirrel. Let's do that. Not only is it never ending on how you keep opening it up, but the decorations can be a bit never ending too if you're like me and don't know when enough is enough. There. Alright, I like that. I think I'm done. Let's take a final look. Got the front of the card. Open it up to that. Open it up to that. And then open it to the final one. It looks so much better with those little pictures on. It really helps bring it to life and back to front. So there we go, that's our never-ending card all done and looking beautiful. I hope that you enjoyed this video on how to make never-ending cards with your Cricut machine. If you did, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to my YouTube channel for loads more Cricut crafts and free SVGs. I hope to see you again tomorrow for day 10 of the card making countdown, but for now, thank you so much for watching. Bye!